know, what he does for the community. And like I said, he's such a good guy. He's been helping out with the Bulls Award. He comes in and helps them see the Bulls with like 6 7 years. Good event Saturday night? Yes, yes. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2. Check, check, check. All right, we're going to go and get things started. Thanks for being here. What a wonderful day it is today. My goodness, the weather is amazing. Can't wait to hear Jackie Sherrill. He's basically a living, breathing history of college football, the teams he's coached, the coaches he's coached with as a player. The big challenge is going to be trying to fit it all in the time that we have, because I had a chance to spend about an hour with Coach last night. And amazing, you hear amazing stat, guys? So this is the 19th year of the club. Coach Sherrill was nice enough to come in year 2. I think we paid him $500. That's all you got, Coach. You know, that wasn't much. But that I didn't realize at the time I went back and looked, Coach Johnny Majors spoke just before you. Larry Lacewell, who was on your staff too, and Frank Broyles all spoke in the same year, in that second year of our club. And Coach was able to walk in here and say, man, this club has really come a long way from where you guys started it. And so it's because we've got amazing members who are very passionate and supportive. We've got amazing sponsors. Got to start off on a very sad note. For those who have not heard, you can see there is an arrangement here in the spot where Gary Underwood would always sit. We had the sad news, shocking news, that Gary had passed away Saturday night. And so, I was trying to remember, Rex, what year we even started. I don't think we had Gary doing it year 1. I think it was somewhere. Year 2. Yeah, I think it was. I don't know if you told me, hey, let's get Gary to do it. And just such a pleasant guy. And I think you all would agree. Just a wonderful man. Always loved repping his Oklahoma Baptist. And we'll let Rex, what we're going to do, we're going to let Rex say the prayer, because Rex had a long history, friendship, working relationship with Gary, and wanted to say a few words, and he wanted to do the prayer. But for those of you that remember, on 9/11, our meeting on 9/11, I don't think I had said anything yet about it being 9/11. So Gary normally just steps up and gives the prayer, Coach. Well, Gary just stepped up, and I wanted to replay what he did on that day a few weeks back.
Guys, I've been thinking about this all week long. We're going to do prayer a little bit different today, okay? I want you to join me. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Amen.
Thank you, David. Coach Sherrill, you will find out, as our other guests do when they come to this club, that the thing that really sets this touchdown club apart is that we are in many ways a big family. That is what David has created here over the last 19 years. I think of all of you, especially you regulars who are here every week, as my Monday family in the fall. And Gary was such an integral part of our family all of these years of the Touchdown Club. But it's what sets us apart. People ask, why did you make such a big deal, for instance, over the Baz's birthday last week? Because we're a family, and that's what families do. And we have that family atmosphere, and that's what sets us apart. Gary and I worked very closely together in the governor's office for almost 10 years. That's where we were working together when this club was formed. I would not see Gary that much outside of football season once I left the governor's office, but I knew I would see him every Monday, and we would get to share lunch here together because he was a part of our family. And just as I look forward to seeing all of you every Monday, and you look forward to seeing friends that you don't see other parts of the year, not only our speakers, not only the presentations we make, but it is this family that brings us here on Monday. So as we have lost a part of our family, let's just give thanks today for the sweet, sweet spirit that Gary brought to this club. Some of your churches, you may sing that song, Sweet, Sweet Spirit, and that's what I think of when I think of Gary Underwood. The smile, the unfailing good humor, the jokes that often fell flat at this podium right before the prayer, but the prayers that were always right on target. And then moments like that one, when Gary blessed us with God Bless America on 9/11. So what I would like to do is ask you to have a moment of silence, that we remember Gary and that we think about his wife, his children, and the rest of his family. And then after that moment of silence, I will try to represent our football club family in filling Gary's big shoes and giving our invocation. But first, a moment of silence, please. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you with gratitude today. We thank you for Gary, the spirit, the smile, the unfailing good humor that he always brought to our club Monday after Monday, year after year. We thank you for him. We ask you to watch over his family. Those of us who are believers, Lord, know that Gary is now with you, hopefully still enjoying football. And we know that even though we don't have him, we have the good memories. We come to you in so much gratitude today because we have so much to be thankful for. We thank you for the fall, the cooler temperatures, the turning of the leaves. We thank you that we get to live in a spot like Arkansas with such great natural beauty and people with hospitality that is second to none. We thank you for Arkansas. We thank you, Lord, for the game of football that we can so enjoy with all of its frustrations even, but with its high moments. It is a part of the cultural fabric of our lives, and we thank you that you bless us with it. We thank you for the Little Rock Touchdown Club, that we can have a Monday family in the fall and that we can gather together and add another day of excitement to our lives in this wonderful time of year. Thank you for David, his leadership of this club. Please continue to Watch over him. Thank you for our volunteers who make this club operate. Thank you for bringing Coach Sherrill to us today. Bless his message and keep him safe on his way home. Again, we are filled with gratitude, Lord, for all you are giving us. We are lucky people at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Rex. That was spot on. Thank you. I know the family reached out. Gary's family said they saw the post, and so they said they really appreciate it. We don't know any details about what happened and the funeral details and all that, but he was a staple. I mean, it was for that many years, and what a wonderful man. You know, that's why I always come in here and say, you know, are we not blessed to be here today? Let's just enjoy the moment we're here, because tomorrow is not promised. And so I do want to apologize for those of you that could not park today. How many had to get some extra cardio in today to get here? Anybody? The parking deck was a little full. My apologies. Also wanted to say thank you so much for all the cards and letters. There's so many, and so many of you sent them, and I hadn't had a chance to go through them all and videos. I'm overwhelmed and blessed and embarrassed about it all, but I'm very grateful. And Rex, I thought what you said about this is a family, and I'm very honored and blessed that all of you took the time to do that. So do want to thank our sponsors, 103.7 The Buzz. Coach was just on with Justin and Wes. We appreciate them being live here every week. AY Media, AY Magazine, and Arkansas Money and Politics. Heather Baker. I want to just show the latest edition of AMP, Arkansas Money and Politics. Where's Judy Henry at? Yeah, look at there, Judy. There we go. I haven't opened it up yet, but I can't wait. Thank you, Heather, for your coverage of wonderful people like Judy. I'm sure that's going to be a heck of a story on her. Thank you so much for your coverage of the Touchdown Club. Hatcher Agency, appreciate Greg Hatcher and all he does for this club and everybody else in the state. And Popeye for taking care of our speakers every week. Does such a great job. War Memorial Stadium. Simmons Bank Field. Don't forget, take advantage of renting the facilities whenever you want to do that. Really some unique opportunities. State football playoffs coming up, or state championships rather, coming up very soon. That's exactly right. Arkansas Urology, Scott Davis, Chris Shinup had a great event this past Saturday night, big fundraiser for their foundation. Appreciate them and their support. Pulaski County Farm Bureau, Todd Dennis and Stephen Reichard, great service with great rates. Todd has brought some folks with him a little today that I'm going to mention before we introduce Coach Sherrill, but thank you, Todd, for bringing us our special guest today. We appreciate you. Dairy Queen, Blake and Nelson Lively, Todd Ditton. Appreciate their support at Dairy Queen and their growth across the state. Simmons Bank Arena, this was just announced. Disney on Ice, Find Your Hero, April 11th to the 14th. I've seen Rex, let's see. I bet you Chris Kane, because he's got little kids, will know these 3 Disney on Ice shows. Encanto, Moana, and Frozen. Yeah. You're one of them. That's April 11th through the 14th, this Saturday and Sunday. Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Glow Party Live. I didn't know you could have a Hot Wheels Monster Trucks and then have a glow party too. Whatever works for the kids. That's this Saturday and Sunday. Michael Marion is wearing his purple, and he's got his. Where are you at? Where is it at? Shake it. Let me hear it. Yeah. Michael has his maroon on and his cowbell to see Coach today. I appreciate them. Summerwood Sports. The most amazing new sports facility in Arkansas, located right in Bryant. The Hendricks family, David Jr., Dexter, Landon, all the guys. Basketball, volleyball, parties, clinics. If you hadn't checked it out, go to summerwoodsports.com. It's really amazing. We appreciate their continued support of the Touchdown Club. Advantage Service Company, Kevin Brooks. One Call does it all. They've been around 35 years. They know how to get the job done. Make the call, 501 call. Right, Lindsay and Jennings, I mentioned Judy a few minutes ago. They also support not only the Touchdown Club, but they support Baptist Health Bolo Bash. That's raising funds for the Higginbotham Breast Cancer Center. Little Rock Zoo, Cartaz Festival of Trees. They do so much in addition to the Cliff Harris Award I was telling Coach Sherrill about a minute ago. Appreciate all you guys do at Right, Lindsay and Jennings. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Wally Hall and Amanda Copley. Amanda, just want to give you credit. Amanda is the person who calls coaches and players every week to get them here. We're not having a player of the week today. We will next week. But thank you for all your effort that you do behind the scenes. We appreciate your support, and that's a neat part of our program. Every week we appreciate your support of the Democrat Gazette. Crane Automotive, the largest dealer group in Arkansas, 20 locations, 1,000 Arkansas. We appreciate you guys always representing here. Appreciate Crane Automotive, Christian Crane leading that. Sissy's Log Cabin, legendary jewelry company in Arkansas, founded over 50 years ago by Sissy Jones. Locations in Pine Bluff, Little Rock, West Little Rock, Jonesboro, Memphis, and Conway. Doublebee's, owner Steve Lytle and GM Ed Light, who's great to see Ed here today. Over 30 locations, over 50 years in business. Gas it, grab it, and go. Doublebee's, we appreciate their support and what they do in the community. Oaklawn Sports app. Did anybody see old 53's picks this week on the Oaklawn Sports app? 5-0. 5-0 finally. I've struggled a few weeks, but finally somebody bet on me and made some money. Thank you. So if you haven't done that yet, go to the sports app. I mean, I got it cooking now. So you don't have to bet. You don't have to wager much, but I appreciate them. A lot of fun doing that and look forward to having more undefeated records each weekend. Simmons Bank got Pat Anderson and Jason Culpepper here today. I appreciate them. I was telling Coach about the amazing growth of Simmons Bank. Been with us since 2014. 6 states, $28 billion in assets. We can't do it without all the sponsors together. Let's give them a big round of applause. We appreciate them. Do want to thank our team, Dwayne Duncan, Matt Johnson, Chris Kane, RJ Hawk, Meredith Hell, Vines Brookshire Agency, our man Rex, who does such a good job, all the volunteers who set up the tables, check everybody in, and Debbie Wyman, the best volunteer group in America. Let's please give them all a round of applause. Couldn't do it without them. All right, Rex, I think we've got what a crazy week it's been in football. Let's give it up for Rex Nelson again, everybody.
Now, let me add, Gary would not want us to be morbid today. The other thing that this family brings, Coach, is energy. And he would sometimes say, show some energy today. So the best funerals we all know are the ones where you laugh and cry at the same time. So I felt I sucked the energy out of the room, so let's pick it back up, because Gary would say, show some energy, Coach. You know, Chris Berman says he delivers the fastest, however, few minutes in sports on Monday night. And this is it. So here we go. Here we go. Show some energy. Same old story, though. Close, but no cigar. Alabama 24, Arkansas 21. So the Tide moves to 6-1 overall, 4-0. Hogs are agonizingly close to a winning record if you look at these scores, but they're 2-5, 0-4 in conference. That is the 4th loss by 7 points or less. 17th consecutive loss to Alabama. Tide now 121-4 against unranked teams under Nick Saban. Saban is 20-2 against Arkansas, 17-0 at Bama, 3-2 at LSU. Arkansas last beat him at the Miracle on Markham here at War Memorial Stadium in 2002, one of these years. But we'll move on. UCA Bears moved to 5-2 overall, 2-0 in the conference, 24-21 win over Stephen F. Austin in Conway. Miles Butler caught a 3-yard touchdown pass with only 2:12 remaining for the Bear win. They're having a good season. Not so with UAPB. They fall to 1-5, 0-3 in the SWAC, a 42-17 loss on the road to previously winless Mississippi Valley State. Harding rolls in that big top 10 battle in Searcy, a 41-10 victory over Ouachita. That ends Ouachita's 18-game GAC winning streak. That's why I'm wearing the black Ouachita shirt today, David. You might notice. Harding moves to 7-0. Ouachita is 6-1. Ouachita had last lost a road game 2 years ago in Searcy, so they can't get over the Searcy hurdle. The game was tied 10-10 in the third quarter, but then the Bisons took over on the ground. Harding, which runs a double slot option offense, Coach, you just don't see it much anymore, finished with 427 yards rushing and 0 yards passing in that football game. You don't see it anymore, and yet they have got a team that I can tell you after Saturday night can contend for a Division II national title. So keep an eye on the Bisons. Another great game in the GAC. SAU beats Henderson 35-34 in Arkadelphia. Their fine quarterback for the Mule Riders, O.B. Jones, hits Camden Perry for a 31-yard score with 4:24 left. Jones passed for 132 yards. He rushed for 112 yards and 2 TDs. Arkansas Tech, which started 0-4, wins its third consecutive game, 24-10 over UAM in Russellville after, again, having started 0-4. They're on a bit of a roll. So here's what you have among the Arkansas schools. Harding 7-0, Ouachita and Southern Arkansas are 6-1, Henderson now 5-2, Tech 3-4, UAM 2-5. GAC football is really fun. You ought to consider going out and seeing a game. Hendricks falls to 2-4, 16-15 loss to Birmingham Southern, and Ottawa out of Arizona beats Arkansas Baptist 83-0. Now, on to the SEC. Tennessee 20, Texas A&M 13 in Knoxville. Tennessee moves to 5-1 overall, 2-1 in the conference. A&M falls to 4-3 overall, 2-2. As far as money being spent, probably the biggest disappointment in college football right now. And we'll get Coach to maybe weigh in on that a little bit. Florida 41, South Carolina 39. Gators score with just 47 seconds left in Columbia. South Carolina had led by 10 points in the fourth quarter of that game. They lose the lead. Florida goes to 5-2 and 3-1. South Carolina falls to 2-4, 1-3 in the SEC. Georgia struggled a little bit. 37-20 over Vanderbilt as star tight end Brock Bowers is injured. Georgia winning streak, though, now 24 games. They've won 23 consecutive SEC games, 34 consecutive regular season wins. So Georgia's 7-0 and 4-0. Vanderbilt falls to 2-6. 0-4 in the conference. LSU 48-18 over Auburn. Jaden Daniels accounted for 48 yards passed for 3 touchdowns as LSU goes to 5-2, 4-1 in the SEC. Auburn falls to 3-3. They are 0-3 in the SEC at the start of the Hugh Freeze era. And Missouri is surprisingly good this year. 38-21 over Kentucky. The Tigers go to 6-1 overall, 2-1 in the SEC. Kentucky is 5-2 and 2-2. Now we have a lot in Arkansas on this Saturday. Mississippi State at Arkansas. So you've got the homecoming game in Fayetteville. Coastal Carolina at Arkansas State, so action in Jonesboro. Arkansas Tech is at Ouachita. Henderson is at UAM. Harding plays SAU in the Murphy USA Classic in El Dorado. Alcorn State is at UAPB. Rhodes plays Hendricks at War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock. And somebody named John Melvin, who I haven't met yet, plays at Line. John Melvin at Line. So go see old John. So 8 towns. No excuse, is there, David? 8 towns to choose from. Fayetteville, Jonesboro, Arkadelphia, Monticello, El Dorado, Pine Bluff, Little Rock, and Batesville. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Great job there, Rex, as always. I do want to say congratulations to Rex again. Rex was honored by the Arkansas Press Association on Thursday night for his contributions for many years. And, you know, he is a Arkansas treasure. We're very blessed to have him. And Justin Moore was honored with you, too, as the headliner of the year. So thought your words were great there. Speaking of, I want to introduce some guests real quick. Speaking of Justin Moore, Joy Gonzalez, who is Justin's manager, is here. Where's Joy at? Here's Joy right there. Welcome, Joy Gonzalez, if you will. Joy is he's a huge sports guy, too, and glad to have Joy here today. I did want to mention a few other folks. A former player under Coach Sherrill at Mississippi State. Rocky Felker was the original coach, but after Felker was let go, Coach came in, and you went from a walk-on to being a scholarship player. Please welcome Todd Peterson, everyone. And he works here in Benton. How many years in Arkansas now, Todd?
In Arkansas, altogether
about 20 years. Okay. Are you a hog yet? Or are you still a bulldog? Still a bulldog. That's okay. You're surrounded by hogs over there, just FYI. Also, I mentioned Todd Dennis has some special guests here today. So one of the things we'll probably get to if we have time, there's so much with Coach Sherrill, is the 12th man. You remember where Coach Sherrill decided to get all the students just to come out and cover kickoffs and well, the coach he had to help him do that was he a GA? Was David Beal a GA at the time? Was a graduate assistant, a young man by the name of David Beal. David Beal played high school football at Russellville, got a scholarship to go to Texas A&M, Played at Texas A&M, and then when Coach, I can't remember, what was his coach's name? Was Ballard? Was that was his coach? When he left and Coach Sherrill came in, he stayed and started working with Coach Sherrill, and he was the one who helped implement Coach Sherrill's plan to do a 12th man. Well, he passed away 2 or 3 years ago of brain cancer, tragically, but a wonderful guy, I've heard. Anyway, his high school coach, David Bill's high school coach, Louis Reyes here. Please stand along with one of his teammates, Kelly Davis. Both of you guys stand up and welcome. Yeah, that was, we'll talk about that, an amazing vision for Coach you to do that. Of course, that was back when I played, and it was amazing what you did with them. All right, it's time to get Coach up here. We're going to try to cover as many topics as we can before we let him go. But if we can, Steve Sullivan, let's see what he has to say about our guest speaker, Coach Sherrill.
University of Pittsburgh, 1977. Jackie Sherrill takes over a team that just won a national title. His 5-year run with Pitt was spectacular. An overall record of 50-9. 4 bowl wins, and 3 straight 11-1 seasons.
Could be the last play for him. Marino goes deep. Brown, touchdown! John Brown makes a great catch.
January 1982, Sherrill signs a record contract with the Aggies. 6 years, $1.7 million. He's the guy who started the tradition of the 12-man kickoff team. His 7-year run at A&M included 3 straight Cotton Bowl championships.
During this week, when I called you up on Monday and I said, if you practice, some of you guys play like you practice, we're going to win. And I told that to Woody. And Woody played like he practiced. Congratulations.
1991, Sherrill takes over a Mississippi State program in distress. He turned the Bulldogs into a consistent winner. He finished with a winning record against arch rival Ole Miss and his 75 wins, the most in Mississippi State history. Please welcome this Duncan, Oklahoma native who was a graduate assistant with Arkansas in 1967. College coaching great Jackie Sherrill.
Before we get started, I want everybody here to know I cussed you a lot back in the 80s.
Was I 2-1? I think we were. But listen, after I left, you started beating us every year. I think, well, except for 88 and 89. I think Ken got those Cotton Bowls, but you had 3 straight in a row, 85, 86, 87, right?
Right.
Well, hey, listen, it's great to have you back.
Well, thank you. I'm impressed. First, I'd like to introduce David Bill's mother. She is here somewhere.
She's not here.
Had to go, but we had a good one in David Bill.
You've got some great stories. There's so much to cover. Let's start off the very beginning. You played for Bear Bryant. Look at this picture. This is I tried to find some pictures of you your playing days. Look at there. There's Jackie Sherrill right there, number 36. But then I found another picture. Let's go to the next one. Now, are you 36 or 61? And I found out he may be a lot more because you played 7 positions for Bear Bryant.
Well, whenever somebody got hurt, they asked me to go play. Well, but the funniest story, we lose our 2 tight ends. This is my senior year. We lose junior year, 2 tight ends. And Coach Bryant never would come on the players' floors. And all of a sudden, I'm in my room, and I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, Coach Bryant walks in, and I'm shuffling. I'm sitting up, and Coach Bryant says, "Can you play tight end?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I'll try." And I can't say what he said, but he said, "I know that you will try. I want to know if you can play the damn thing or not." Of course, I wasn't going to tell him no. Right. So at that time, tight ends, defensive end, nose guard, linebacker, tailback, and run and fullback.
And of course, you played at Biloxi High. Bruce James, our good friend Bruce James, played at Moss Point, Mississippi, and,
yes.
And you at Biloxi you were a great player. But let's Coach Bryant, if we could, Matt, put up the picture of Coach. Now he's an Arkansan, from Fordyce. But one of the things you told me last night, we'll get to Coach Broyles in a minute. just his physical presence and the way he administered his program?
Well, I was lucky. I played for Coach and coached for Coach 1 year, and then I got to coach for Coach Broyles a year, and then coach with Coach Majors for 8 years. And describing Coach Bryant, I've always said he was a man's man. Whatever you wanted in a man, he was. But he was 6'4", he was big. But when we were not practicing very well, he would get down and either be an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and you did not want him to come off. No. But at practice every day, Coach Bryant would go out 15 minutes, 10 minutes early, just go out by himself and just sit and think. And when he would come out, we'd be out before practice. If he came out humming, "We shall gather at the river," you did not want to go to practice. Not that day. No. But he was, big in stature, but he was very, very sympathetic, and he helped a lot of people and gave them. And Coach Majors probably was the best PR guy.
Now that staff also had Howard Snellenberger as a coach, who obviously turned out to be an amazing coach. You also had Gene Stallings that was on that staff as well, so some great coaches.
You had Pat James, Coach Stallings, Coach Snellenberger. I mean, on, and all of them ended up, being great coaches other places.
You shared with me something last night that Bear Bryant had said about suspending great players. How did you phrase that?
Well, I learned, we always learn from your mentor. I've learned that you don't get rid of great players. You discipline them, but you don't get rid of great players. He disciplined Joe Namath, kicked him off, removed him from the team. But his wife, Miss Mary Harmon, she told Joe to come and live in their basement. And so when Coach Bryant got home, she told him, Joe's in our basement. That's where he's going to live. So that's where he lived.
Speaking of, we got a picture of Joe. Now, you were telling me, now listen, you've coached some of the greatest players of all time, but you said this guy was just, including Ken Stabler, even at Alabama, you played with him, Pat Sloan, but this guy was above all.
Joe was the best athlete I ever played or coached, and he ran 4.5. We had a young man that won the 60 in the SEC, and he could not outrun Joe on grass. He could on the track, but not grass. But he could play. He tore his knee up. We were playing Florida, ran the option, made a cut, and that's put him backwards there.
And you said he did bump heads with Coach Bryant occasionally.
I would say he probably did.
Yeah. But then
not many would get away with it.
That's right. Well, then you go from, you spent 1 year as a GA at Alabama as you finished, and you decided you wanted to go to Arkansas.
My roommate was Bobby Roper. Bobby Roper is probably, a lot of you remember, was all Southwest Conference defensive end. He came to Alabama as a GA. We were roommates, and I said, well, I'll go to Arkansas. And I met Coach Bryant walking into his office one day, and I said, Coach, would you call Coach Broyles? And he said, do they have a job? I said, no, sir, I'm going there as a GA. He did not talk to me from that point on because he wasn't happy I was leaving Alabama to go to Arkansas. But he did help me get the job.
Yeah, by the way, too, Coach was the last two-way player for Bear Bryant to play both ways.
In that group, yes.
Want to make sure and mention that. Yeah. So, Coach Broyles, I know we got a picture of Coach up here. So you were 1 year, as a matter of fact, Barry Switzer, you see right there to the right, on that staff. I think we've got that next picture, too, of the 60. This might have been, you see Barry Switzer right there in the middle. Coach Majors, if you're looking at the picture, Coach Majors is the far left, and Coach Switzer's in the middle. So when you got to Arkansas, what did you learn and take away from Coach Broyles?
Well, Coach Broyles was the best businessman in coaching I've been around. He was very intelligent, but he also let the coaches coach. He also let the coaches discipline the players. and Wilson.
Yeah, so when we were naming off assistant coaches, and when I mentioned Wilson Matthews, your eyes got big and said, "Oh yeah," from a discipline standpoint.
Yeah, and you got some of it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Probably got a hell of a lot.
And he was, and so you said Coach Broyles, you let his assistants do most of the coaching. Talk about what you remember about that 1 year you were there at Arkansas.
Well, he had a great coaching staff. Coach Broyles always would hire coaches that were really good. He hired Richard Williamson away from Alabama a few years later. But being organized, Coach Broyles was very organized, very intelligent. But again, he did the meetings, let the coaches go and get ready for practice, and they ran practice.
So you're there 1 year, and Coach Majors decides that he gets the opportunity to go to Iowa State, and he asks you as well as some other pretty darn good coaches to go there.
Well, he didn't ask me. I went and asked Coach Majors, and he looked at me and said, "What can you coach?" And I said, "Coach, if you're a coach, you can coach anything." Yeah, he kind of looked at me. Well, I don't know. But Coach Broyles got me the job. Coach Majors went and asked him, and Coach Broyles said, "You need to hire him."
So you went there, and the other assistants were, you had Jimmy Johnson, was coaching high school.
Larry Lacewell, Jimmy Johnson were there on the same time, and they both became head coaches. Of course, we know Jimmy's record, but Coach Broyles, Coach Bryant, if you look at their tree, they have tremendous coaching trees, and Coach Majors always later in his life before he passed, I think he had the most head coaches of any coach. I'm pretty sure he had 33 former coaches that were head coaches.
Yeah, Coach, you remind me a little bit of Coach Majors. So you guys are very successful at Iowa State, get the opportunity to go to Pitt and talk about now, again, you guys are all Southern guys. And, of course, Coach Majors was a star at Tennessee. So why Pitt? Which in Pitt was very bad at the time.
They were 1-10, 1-10, 1-10. They had won 3 games in the past 3 years. The administration, of course, they never will admit it, but most administrations won't admit anything anyway. So, my wife and my daughter, she's to preference that. My wife's a songwriter, singer, entertainer, but she also is writing a book. And I said, "Bonnie, I need to be 6 foot under before you publish this book." And she looked at me and said, "Why? Nobody's paying your salary." So I can answer that.
So you go to Pitt, and immediately it's a different kind of, the towns
Yes.
were different in that area than maybe different parts of the country.
Well, any coach that goes, you're there to coach. So being at the town, but Pittsburgh during that time, with football, with Pittsburgh Steelers, with baseball, and with Pitt, all three won a national championship at the same time. So it was a great sports town. But going back to Pittsburgh, we signed that year 76 players. Junior college, and 4 years later is when Pitt won the national championship.
One of the key signees, this is Coach Majors, and actually this young man spoke at our Touchdown Club banquet a few weeks ago, Tony Dorsett. What a find he ended up being, and he talked about you going in his mom's kitchen. I think he got the story a little mixed up, right?
Well, my mother's always made pecan pies. In the South, pecan pies are made with light maple. In the North, they're made with dark maple. So it's a different taste. And so my mother sent me some pies all the time, so I took one to Miss Dorsett. And we were in the kitchen, and no one ever went in her kitchen but her and her family. And Tony walked in the door, and he kind of looked, and he said, "What the hell are you doing here?" In the kitchen. But you always recruit the mother. We think as dads, we think we control, but no, that ain't true. but I never recruited a player unless I went into saw in presence with the presence of his mother. I could tell more in 5 minutes of the kid's character at that time than I could any other way. And if a kid did not respect his mother, I did not recruit him. And I had some kids that happened, and even it went the other way too, where you would get from the high school coach, or you'd get something from in the community that the kid was negative on the kid, either his character or his attitude. And one great player we recruited, the coach was saying he got an issue. When I went in the home with he and his mother, he had no issue. And I'm glad I didn't listen to the coaches. I only listened to a coach one time, and that was Jerry Ball. Jerry Ball played for Port Arthur, or Beaumont, and the assistant coach that went to see him said the high school coaches said he had an issue. I said, don't recruit him. Well, Jerry Ball wanted to come to A&M his whole life. He goes to SMU, great player, All-American, goes and was All-Pro. And he's making getting ready to play SMU, watching the film, he's making every tackle from sideline to sideline for 60 minutes. And I called the assistant coach in and I said, any player that goes from sideline to sideline for 60 minutes and plays like he plays, he doesn't have a character problem. And then I said, by the way, I'll make those decisions.
The crazy thing is that you guys recruited all those great players. You left in '76 to coach at Washington State. That was a year that Pitt won the national championship with Tony Dorsett. So you go to Washington State that one year. Johnny Majors decides to leave after the national championship and go to his alma mater, Tennessee. So they asked you to come back. So only 1 year at Washington State,
Yes.
but you saw the opportunity to come back.
Well, Pittsburgh, when we went there, it's at that time, with all the steel mills up both rivers, Haley and the Allegheny, you had a lot of young people playing football, but also were very, very tough. We went south to get the speed and recruited a lot of kids out of Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida. And I was able to go into Mississippi and recruited Hugh Green, and then went into Florida and recruited a kid by the name of Ricky Jackson. But we had a lot of kids out of the South that gave us the speed, and we were able to. The senior class was 1980. David, there were 18 players that went to pro camp. 18.
Yeah. You had 3 consecutive 11-1 seasons, right, at Pitt those 3 years.
If that head coach had been smarter, we would have been 12-0. I don't know who in the hell he was. But.
Well, we're talking, and I think we've got a picture of one of the quarterbacks on that team. That's Dan Marino. That's, yeah. So you had Dan Marino. You hadn't even mentioned Mark May, Jimbo Colbert, Russ Grimm, right? All those guys are part of that 18. I mean, they're Hall of Famers everywhere.
Yeah, and Bill Fralick, Jimbo Colbert. You have all 5. Well, 4 out of the 5 will be in the Hall of Fame. You have 2 now, and Mark will later in life, and same with Bill Fralick.
I didn't ask you this last night, but Rex, if you remember, Barry Switzer spoke to us probably 10 years ago, and I asked Barry, I said, the statute of limitations is up. Do you want to share anything about any of your players maybe that took some extra incentive to come? He said, oh, yeah. He said the statute of limitations is up, and he said, and I brought up Keith Jackson because, obviously we wanted to have Keith Jackson in Arkansas. He said, best $20,000 ever spent in my career is what he said. So I want to give you, the statute of limitations is up. Do you want to share anything like Coach Switzer about all those great recruits?
No. But I did. Barry's a friend still, and I sent Marcus Dupree to Oklahoma. And Barry will tell you the biggest mistake he made, he did not move his mother, and his brother was a handicapped young man. He didn't move them to Oklahoma because Marcus would go home to see his brother and mother on after the game, and then he'd come back on Sunday. Then all of a sudden he came back on Monday, and then he came back on Tuesday, and Barry got upset about it, which he should have, but he should have brought his mother and brother to OU. So there's a lot of stories that probably could be published. Now we have the NLI, so it doesn't make a damn anymore.
It doesn't make any difference. It's all legal now. One other story if we go to A&M. Talk about the recruitment of Mark May and Joe Paterno. You and Joe sort of got into it a little bit. You want to share that real quick?
Well, we probably didn't like each other at that time. And later, Joe invited my wife and I to Penn State for a game at his house, and I went had me talk to the team, and I went into his office, and I said, Joe, I'm a tag-along. And he said, what do you mean? I said, you invited my wife. You didn't invite me. I'm tagging along. And he looked at me and he said, well, that probably is right. But anyway, we were recruiting, and Coach Paterno had Mark's and told Mark we couldn't graduate from Pitt, our kids' performance-wise or graduation rate. And I got upset. And anyway, make a long story short, I had another coach, Tony Wise, that became really a great offensive line coach for Miami and then the Cowboys. And I told him, I said, go sign Mark. I said, if you don't sign him, don't come back. And he had all of his clothes packed in his car because he wasn't going to come back. But Mark ended up being a great player, as we know.
And you actually called Coach Paterno and told him you weren't happy about that.
I called Sunday night, yes.
So you decided to leave Pitt and take the opportunity at Texas A&M. You got there, and success didn't come right off the bat. So,
no.
But you knew it had a lot of potential. Obviously, we played those years. We talked about the coldest game that you and I both ever participated. It was 1984 in Fayetteville.
Right.
It was just above freezing, and we won that game.
Well, the rain was freezing. Yes.
And so you said it was. So we won. If you remember, this is one of the ones we can brag on. We did. Arkansas won, I think, 35-0 that game, but it was miserable. And you said you made the poor decision on where to stay the night before.
Well, we stayed up in
Bella Vista.
And you were staying in cabins. The first thing, and then we had the game at 11 because of TV, so you have to get up at 4. There's no lights outside, none of the players, and we didn't do a good job. We were going to have breakfast at a pancake place in between there in Bella Vista and Fayetteville. When we got there, they did not have enough personnel to feed all the players, so some of the players didn't get to eat. But it started sleeting, and it was cold. We made a mistake. Well, the mistake was the quarterback that started, we put him out of the game, and the backup quarterback, we couldn't stop him. And at halftime, David, that was the first time I had nothing to say.
Just wanted to get out of town.
Oh yes.
You got to tell us about the 12th man. For those that don't know, that was something that the tradition has started back in 1922 with one student who was willing to go on the field and be there in case the team needed him. But you thought maybe that you saw a vision of what the 12th man could be even bigger than that.
Yeah, in 1922, King Gill was a basketball player, but he didn't go to the Cotton Bowl playing. Back then it was the Dixie Classic, and they were losing some players, getting hurt, so they asked him to come out of the stands. He did out of the stands. He went under the stands, changed, and got dressed in uniform, stood on the sideline. And so from that point on at Texas A&M, that's why the students stand the whole game, because of the 12th man. Fast forward, a player came in my office, broke in my office, and he said, he actually ran right by the secretary, burst the door open. He said, do you want to be the head coach, or do you want to be just another head coach? And so he challenged me and put me in the elephant walk. That's another tradition. So he took me to the bonfire and put me up, and I was working on the bonfire. But I saw the Red Pots pass their hats with a hand-picked the other Red Pot to work on the bonfire. And when I saw him take the licks with the axe handle, I said, there's 40,000 students here that are very tough and also have no regard for their body. I can find kids that can cover kickoffs.
So you got it started with David Bill.
Yeah, I had
252. You put out a request, said no
Yeah.
experience needed.
Put it in the student newspaper, no experience required. And there was 252 showed up, 2 females, and David was in charge, David Bill, and we whittled that down to 40, and so 40 came out to spring practice, and then the first year there were 17, and then from then after we had 40. But as a coach, you can imagine having 40 extra bodies at spring practice, how it really helped the football team, because they didn't have to go against each other. They could go against the 12th man. But they were good. Their average for 5 years, it was 12.5. The longest was like 28 yards until we played Bo Jackson in the Cotton Bowl, and he went out to the 43.
Think about this. So what he's saying there is, and this is what drives me nuts because I played special teams. Every kickoff, that's the farthest the return was 12 yards. And the first year you did the 12th man, the kickoff coverage was number 1 in the nation.
Yes.
At that amount, at 12.8 yards the first year. And so that was a really neat thing.
For 5 years.
For 5 years, yeah.
They were either number 1 or in the top 3.
And now they continue that tradition with just one player wearing the number 12, right?
Now, when I told the staff the next morning from the bonfire, and I told the staff what I wanted to do, no one liked it. Our seed said, Coach, I think you fell off that stack. And so RC did not like it, and they go to West Texas, playing Texas Tech, and they ran a kickoff back, and then that's when he decided the only one.
You then obviously your next stop was Mississippi State.
Yes.
And became the all-time.
We have a cow back here.
Yeah, I know.
They'll ring that cowbell.
Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead. Look at it. He's got it.
Now, when I went there, everybody in the conference was raising Cain about the cowbells. And at that time, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee piped in music. And, of course, at Alabama, you still hear during the game and before the game, they use the PV speakers. At Tennessee, they would line the field with the big PV speakers. That's the rock band speakers. And on their side, it would be facing the stands. On the visitor side, it's facing the field, so you couldn't talk. So playing at Pittsburgh, we brought a team into Tennessee, Coach Majors, and I was coaching at Tennessee, and I gave our security guys wire cutters. And I said, cut the speaker wires. Well, he did, but he cut them too early. They repaired them. And I said, right before kickoff, cut them again. He did. So we didn't have to hear the Rocky Top. But now Tennessee, so it was back and forth, raising Cain about cowbells, and I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I said, you've got schools piping in music and piping in, so at Tennessee, playing Rocky Top, the band, there's no way in hell you can hear Rocky Top being played by the band with 100,000 people talking or singing. But now they have speakers all the way around the mezzanine, so it's still loud.
The last picture here I'm going to show up there. For those that don't know this story, let's put the picture up, and for those who know the story.
Now,
here,
are you going to do this?
Yeah, I got to do it, Coach, because some people don't know this story, and so
now, you have ladies here.
That's
now,
okay. Listen, these are all farm families.
Now,
So
you also have some.
My mother's here. Mother's okay with it. So you guys were getting ready to play Texas. You'd already been at Texas A&M, and so you decided to do some educational. You termed this was educational and motivational, I believe is what, when the president called you into his office to ask why you had done this, right?
He wasn't very happy.
So explain the story to everybody who hadn't heard it.
Also, the feds came down.
The feds?
Yeah, and for a week. And when he left, he came in the office and smiled and said, "I'll see you." But
well, real quick, for those that are listening, I put a picture of a bull up there, and you guys were playing the Texas Longhorns, and you can go from there.
In the meeting, I asked our players, anybody know what a steer is? Because, Texas steer, and I'll say this, do you know how much tranquilizers they have to give that steer from running wild? They give him a bunch, but that's okay to them. But anyway, so I asked if anybody knew what a steer was. Players know from Mississippi and Alabama. We're going to practice. We had one person that was Jimmy Helms that played at Texas on the staff, and we're going to practice. One of the managers runs up to me and says, "Coach, we're in the cattle business. We do 25, 30 a day. Would you like my father?" And I said, "Sure." Well, they bring the bull, and there was a track girl running across the field, and she tells her mother, and her mother worked at the vet school. That's how it went public. And Jim Lampley called me, and I said, "Jim, do you know what a steer is?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, you do now." Now, I use this when somebody brings it up. David, for your information, I carry a little knife. It's sharp as hell. And I will tell you, I show you in 3 seconds.
That's okay. But the moral of the story is you beat Texas like 28-10. You whipped them, right?
Yes.
And so then that's when everybody started but the vet, the president, all wanted to see what you had to say about it.
Well, and the feds.
Feds.
Yeah, and it was a big deal. I didn't really think it was, but I wasn't smart enough to know.
Not to ask, just go ahead and do it and ask for forgiveness.
I wasn't very welcomed at the vet school.
How many times, by the way, did you beat Texas at either A&M or?
We beat them 7 years in a row.
7 years in a row.
Yeah. And,
wow. This crowd likes that. That's a positive.
Well, I can't. Texas. I can say this, Judy. You understand this. The reason the South and Coach Broyles was extremely intelligent as a businessman. But at that time, going all the way back, Texas dissolved the radio network that we had. Jim Host came in and out of Kentucky, and he was going to do the radio of the Southwest Conference. Coach Broyles went to the state legislature, had them a vote that every radio station in the state could carry Arkansas network football. And here in Little Rock, everywhere else, if you in the city, then you could have one station. But here in Little Rock, I think all the stations carried Arkansas football. So I wouldn't sign the contract because Host gave Texas an unfair advantage. Texas paid Host $600,000. Host would pay the assistant coaches, but they would use the satellite. The satellite back then cost $5,000 per hour, but they gave it to them for $100 or $200 an hour for their coaches show and their coaches TV show. I wouldn't sign the contract. So they had a special meeting because it was an unfair advantage. They had a special meeting, and during the meeting they told me, I was the AD as well, they told me if I didn't sign the contract, we couldn't go to the Cotton Bowl. And I said, that's fine. We'll go to the orange or sugar. They didn't like that. But anyway, we ended up, I wouldn't sign it, and ended up signing it. And I told Jim, he asked me what it would take. I said, it's very simple. You write a letter to everybody in the conference that you did, in fact, give Texas an unfair advantage. But fast forward, when I'll go back to the SEC. Coach Broles and I we were at the coaching convention. I went to his suite, and at that time, Coach Broles was talking to the SEC and about and they were going to have 16 teams. And the 4 teams they didn't get at first was Texas, Texas A&M, Miami, and Florida State. Well, fast forward, in Texas, DeLoss, Dodge, had Texas where they were going to go to the Pac-10 back then. So Texas wanted Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Colorado, Texas, Texas A&M, and would make the Pac-10 16 teams instead of 10 back then. They went to 12. So fast forward right now, Texas coming to the SEC with Oklahoma. You can imagine what the television contract is. The SEC will pay each school approximately $100 million per year just from television.
It's crazy. The last thing before we let you go, you like the NIL? You like the transfer portal? You like college football the way it is right now?
Well, the transfer portal started here in Arkansas. Thomas Mars is the one. And by the way, what I said here have said and what I will say, it's all my opinion. And the attorneys here understand what I just said. But Thomas Mars started the transfer portal. The NCAA could not beat him, or he beat the NCAA on every case. They hired him. He didn't even stay a year. Now, it's my opinion that when he found out how screwed up the NCAA is why he left, because they were taking advantage, and they have always taken advantage of the student athletes. You know, you got $15.
About that, $15 a month.
Yeah, $15 a month, and that's what our stipend was. But when they changed took the dorms away, because Arkansas, Oklahoma, A&M, Texas, a lot of the southern schools had dormitories, they voted to take it away. And when they did that, you had to have 51% of the student body to live in the dorm. Then you also did away with training table, and they could only provide 1 meal a day, or you could. And they gave you whatever the student meal money was. And every university uses a 21-day or 21 meal, knowing that the kids are not there Friday night, may not be there Saturday, come back maybe Sunday night. So they put that in the cost of meals. So at that time, at Mississippi State, we could have $3 for breakfast, $5 for lunch, $7 for dinner. So tell me where a 300-pound lineman can go eat for $3.
So now, so you're glad the players are being able to reap the benefits.
And how that happened, the NCAA never took that side unless they were publicly embarrassed. During the Final Four of basketball, one of the basketball players said, "I don't have money to eat. In 2 days, it was passed. It wasn't passed by the whole body of college athletics. They said, and because they were embarrassed, in 2 days they passed, the players can have whatever they wanted to eat. Now, they're fed very well.
Coach, what an amazing career. You remind me a little bit of Johnny Majors. You got stories galore, and what an amazing football career as a player, as a coach. Thank you for squeezing us in. Maybe love to have you back in a few years if you're willing to come back.
I will say that Judy has the hardest job in this room, because dealing with the NIL today, that ain't easy. And of the top 10, and they do a market value, in the top 10 market values, there's 2 young ladies in there, and both of them from LSU. Right. One's a gymnast, and the other one's a basketball player. So meaning us, in the public always thought it was just football players. But her job is not football. Her job is money for everybody. Right. And with oil $80 to $100 a barrel, no one can compete with Texas or Texas A&M.
Jackie Sherrill, everybody. Thanks, Coach. Great job. We appreciate you. That's outstanding. Coach Sherrill, we'll do pictures. Anybody want